Alright, hello again. Today we're going to talk about bass guitar techniques. We're going to talk about mainly the attacking hand, either left-handed or right-handed, whichever you are. So that's what we're going to cover today, so stick around. Now if you're new to my channel and I want to play bass, I cover bass guitar tips, bass guitar lessons, and do some bass guitar reviews as I get new equipment in and I test it out and I make sure that it's suitable to, give a good recommendation. That's what I do here. So subscribe, hit that bell notification, get in the loop, and don't miss a beat. And I'm Donald with the bass instructor of the How to Play Bass online course at iwanttoPlayBass.com. So jump over there. So subscribe, get your free membership, and when you're serious about your bass playing, sign up and get well on your way to reaching your goals, okay? Alright, so let's get into it. Now we're going to talk about the 4 techniques you can use for your attack hand, your plucking hand, or not your fretting hand, but your plucking hand, we'll call it. So I'm right-handed, so I'll be referring to my right hand as my plucking hand. But anytime I say right hand and you're left-handed, think of it as your plucking hand, okay? So my standard traditional way of playing bass, it's not, there's a lot of controversy. Some people don't believe in certain ways of playing bass, and some people do believe in it. It's all right. However you play it, however you can bring these notes out, is perfectly fine. Some techniques have a different effect on the tone you're getting, which is another reason why people will use certain different ideas for certain tones they want to get. They'll use a different technique because they all will give a different tone to your line. Okay, so I'm the traditional type, and I've been playing this bass for this way for years. And some of the other techniques I'm not as good at. I don't play as often with those. And one I'll tell you about in a little bit. It'll be coming up in a minute. But plucking is my cup of tea. That's the way that I have always learned, and I was kind of the hard-headed type as well, and didn't think you could use any other ways to play the bass. This bass was meant to be played with fingers alone, all fingers, no picks, no slapping, no effects and everything else like that. I was really the traditional, the old-fashioned, I guess you could say, bassist, and I still am. I still believe in that. That's just how I play. That's how I perform better, doing it the ways that I've known for so long. But I can get away with playing it when needed because, like I say, certain songs call for a certain tone, and some of these techniques will get you that tone. So you don't be, broaden your horizons. Don't be narrow-minded about it. Definitely learn every technique you can, and because they can serve each they serve their own purpose. Okay, so the plucking is right here. The bass, I use my right hand or your plucking hand, and basically what I'm doing is right here. Step back a little bit. It's just right there. Now you've got to be careful, as I've talked about in other videos, the not muting this B string. If you've got a 5 string, even on some of the 4 strings, you got to be careful with it. You've got to mute these other strings, these lower end strings, from ringing out from when you're not playing them. They'll just start, the vibration and the movement moving around here will definitely take this B string, and it'll start humming on its own. It'll start growling unintentionally, but it'll just happen. So you've got to find a way to keep that low B string when you're not using it from vibrating and creating a sound. So you definitely want to be careful with it when you're playing, when you're plucking and you've got your 5 string out. Like I said, even the 4 string, that low E will start ringing. So one way that I do it, and there's no right or wrong way. Whatever you've practiced and you've gotten good at, you can be that guy. It's not gonna, as long as you can function and get to where you need to get to, and the moment you need to get there, then it's fine. There's no right or wrong way. Whatever works. Everybody's got their different style, but it's what their style, and that's what you need to just develop your style and go with that. But I'll give you a couple different ways of doing it, and you pick and choose which one you like and which one feels better to you. But the one I use is, I'd anchor my thumb right here, and you got used to doing that reach there. You got used to that. You practiced that and you got used to it. But what I started out I'd use my pickup right there. You can see it's black. It's kind of not that you can't really see, but there's my pickup right there, the top of my pickup, and I would rest my thumb there. And then as I progressed through the years, for a few years, I'd rest my thumb on just the low E string before I got the 5 string. So I would just, you can just anchor your thumb right there, and then you get used to just making that movement, and that muscle memory becomes normal. So then you can practice that way as well, and you can get there and be effective also. But what I've come to find out that in the past few years, playing the 5 string, I prefer to just leave my thumb hanging, and it can just move right here. And then there's not as much muscle memory going on. I mean, I'm just right there. It's not like I've got to do that or make that extra motion. Sometimes economy is a big deal. The less motion that you've got to go, the less reaching, the more effective your lines will be. The further, the closer you can keep your fingers to the fretboard or to the bass, it's just the more it's just, you can be that much more effective by keeping your fingers there. So that's what I've come to terms with, that this is the most effective way to get there for me. Like I say, you can get there any way you can do it. You might be working some more muscles. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong. But for me, I found, I wanted to evolve a little bit, and you might want to too. Just evolve into playing this thing a little better, so you can be a lot more effective at doing it. And this is what I found. I can mute the low string with my thumb unconsciously, and effortlessly. I'm right there. So that's the way I prefer right there. Is just I keep my thumb there, and everything is, I'm right there. I'm not doing a whole lot of effort on my right hand at all, and it works out good. Now, like I said, you can anchor your thumb there. I did that for the longest time, especially when I was playing like Steve Harris stuff. He anchored his thumb right there, and you can get it done. You can get it done. It's not like that's a wrong way. There's no right or wrong way. I can't say that enough. Do it whatever works for you, but just be open-minded about it. Maybe broaden your horizons again, and just what you might find yourself needing different styles to do, different ways to accomplish what your goal is. So that's one right there. I do that, and I usually use these 2 fingers. These are traditional. These 2 fingers. On faster movements, I'll throw that 3rd finger in there. You just got to get used to rotating it, because you just got to get used to rotating it. And like I said, if I'm playing some Steve Harris, some Iron Maiden stuff, let me turn around here for you. That's where I get that galloping. It's perfect for that. But you can get some pretty quick movements there, notes out of that, by throwing that 3rd finger in there as well. But you can get there just as quick with the 2 fingers, maybe not as quick, but eventually you can work up to get that. So that's 2 ways right there. Just the 2 fingers, and a lot of people you can get away with just playing the 1 finger, and that keeps your tone consistent. Sometimes that's one thing you've got to work on with using alternating fingers, is you've got to make this consistent. That tone, your attack has got to be consistent with each other, so you don't notice the difference, or it's not bouncing back and forth. It's consistent. Sounds like the same tone, and you can see it on that 3rd finger. You can see a difference. You can feel a difference. See, so each one's got to sound. It's got to sound like the same note, because it could. You hear that? If you're different, but you can't have it different. You got to. So that's something you gotta practice on when you're alternating fingers, and make sure that they're both the same. And if you struggle with that, initially just use your one finger so you can be consistent with your tone, and then slowly, as you practice and get better, throw that second finger in there, and then throw that third finger. But just make sure they all sound like the same note, seem like just the same note. Okay, so that's your plucking hand. Just work at that. You don't want to be hammering down on the string, because you're going to get a lot of fret noise. So you want to kind of be plucking it to the side. You don't. If you're just mashing it down, you have a tendency you're getting a lot of fret noise. You're slapping it against the frets and stuff like that. So that's one thing where keeping my thumb mobile, I'm able to keep my fingers bent, where if I'm stuck here, if I'm anchored here, I can do it here, but as I get up here, I'm having a tendency to straighten my, you can still reach out, and you just got to work a little, might have to bring your elbow out, the less effort you want, though, you want it, that way you can be more effective at your tone and getting the note that you want. So when you're anchored here, you're putting a little more effort to keep that from to where you're not pounding down on that string. See, so when you're anchored here, your hand's not cupped like. So when you're anchored here, your hand kind of will open up down here, and then you might have a tendency to push the strings a little down, but not noticeably too bad. I mean, just you want to be aware of that you're not doing that when you do. If you do anchor your thumb, you want to be able to. That's why cupping, using my thumb, keeping my thumb mobile, I'm able to. There's going to be some fret buzz. It's inevitable. It's kind of what gives bass its character. Sometimes you get that fret buzz in there. James Jamerson, you heard a lot of fret buzz, and it was just back in those days. It was, it was just part of it. It's what drove that bass. It's a raw bass sound, but nowadays you've got a lot more stuff going on to help you, to where you can just, that beautiful tone can just come out without a bunch of other racket. So, like I say, that's mostly the reason I moved to making my thumb mobile, so I'm able to pluck this string still up and away from the frets. Not that it's actually that drastic of an up, but it's still, I can, if I notice that I'm getting a bunch of fret noise, I'll straighten back up. Okay, so that's your plucking hand. Now, the next one is, it was unheard of back in the day. I didn't want to talk about picks or anything like that, but they do serve their own purpose in bass, and I use it when I play guitar. I can comp some chords with it. So I can do some pretty good chord comping. But when it comes down to just picking, and I can do that too, but it's, I'm not as effective and proficient as I could be. But I can definitely get away with it. And that's all you need to be. If you want to be a pick player, then practice it, the ideal way. And something I didn't talk about on the plucking was when we put our, if we play up here, we're getting a different tone, and it's a little harder to get away from the fret buzz. So I stay about in the middle, but there's times when I'm finding myself down here, way back by the bridge. But each cross from here to here has its own. It's going to give its own different tone as well. You can still produce, you have total control of your tone, but putting it here, you're able to control it in a different way. And here, you're able to control it in a different way. Okay, so if that makes sense. And now, it definitely is that way with a pick. Now, you can, up here, you're going to get a different tone. you can still got control over that tone, how you fret it and how you mute it and everything else. But this is going to give you a different ability to give a different tone as back here and back here. I know a lot of people, a lot of pick players that just stay back here next to the bridge. But that's the pick. Now, like I said, I was always against it, but you know, that's one way. The pick will definitely get your tone, and it's pretty consistent as long as you're a consistent pick player, and you can it'll give you a little more boost on your sound and pushing through the sound system. But it's got a totally different sound than if you're playing with your fingers. So it's a big difference. You know, get you a compression pedal. If you're using your fingers, you want to cut through that mix. You know, don't feel like you have to resort to a pick every single thing you play. You don't. You just want to, you know, use it because there's a lot of songs out there that do use it, and you want to utilize it. And there's sometimes when you're composing your own stuff that's the tone you're going for. So there's each one serves its own purpose. So now the best way to use your pick, like I say, I can count chords all day long on guitar. I'm not the best on, you know, soloing and picking every single note, but in each technique here as well, there's different ways of your attack. You're going to get a different tone. You know, one way, if certain tones you're looking for, you might just do a downstroke. You know, now like I said, I go back to the traditional pick. You're using, you know, I was brought up the right way, the proper way is downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke. But through the years, it's kind of hard. The same thing. Get the attack to sound the same, identical is the goal here. So it's going to sound a little different. The upstroke is just going to be a little different. So if you're timing and it's not too fast of a song, you can just do your downstrokes. But like I say, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to practice the upstroke to utilize them together, unless you're, you know, for me it's harder that I'm not a traditional picker. I'm not a all the time pick player, so I can do it if I'm just picking on, you know, straight A's, just pedaling on some notes. But when it comes to like playing a major scale, it's a little harder for me. But I don't know, I'm just not a big pick fan. When I need to use it, I can, and it carries that sound, tone through the soundboard, so it does serve a good purpose for that. But it's definitely got a tone of its own. So that's, you know, I've seen guys that just do downstrokes and they get a consistent sound. And I've seen guys that can do both and they still get a consistent sound. So like I said, you practice at it, you master it, and you can use it all day long. So that's a couple techniques with picks. And like I said, across the body here, you're going to get a different sound away from your pickups or however you do it. And you get that fast going right there too. So it's definitely got its own character right there. I'm a standard finger guy, so to each his own. But I can use it when needed. Now, another technique is come a long ways from back in the days, and it's new to the bass, which I don't know. I probably, I'm not sure which came first, bass players using a pick, but it seems like a lot of guitarists, once a bass went electric, went over to playing bass, so they did use a pick because they were used to using a pick from playing guitar, that they just went to electric bass and they started playing with their pick as well. So it's been around, they've both been around for a while, but and Larry Graham come up with the slap to help fill in for the drummer, because they didn't have a drummer. They got rid of the drummer, so I think in their church or something they didn't have a drummer, so he filled in the gaps with some percussive slapping. That's how he came up with it, and that's how the slap came around. That was probably, I would say it's the late 60s that he came up with that. I have to get my dates straight, but I'm not totally sure about that. But yeah, so it seemed like the pick and the slap might have been about the same time, but I know a lot of guitarists transitioned to the electric bass and they brought their pick with them. So that's it. But slapping, there's a lot of videos out there on slapping, so it's just some good ideas out there. It's not a lesson, but you can take it and do whatever you want. But the idea is this: taking the ball, the bone of your thumb right there, and people do this. Like I said, this is the idea, but people have manipulated this idea or construed it in different ways. So the way I do it, the thumb bone of the thumb right against the fretboard, right down there. Or you can call that thumping. That alone, that right there is thumping. So you can do that alone. And it's just a matter of loosely, slapping that thumb right there. It's not real tense. You don't ever want to do anything tense. You want everything to be effortlessly. You don't want a bunch of tension and building up. You just want everything wants to be relaxed, or everything needs to be relaxed. That's the best way to get there. And that's just a matter of doing that. You'll notice that if you do everything effortlessly in a relaxed position, you'll be able to speed it up. You just start off slow, and as it becomes more second nature, you can speed it up to whatever you need to do, and they'll still be relaxed. So that is right there. That's the thump. The thumb against the fretboard, mashing the string, and that's just basically right there. And you want to be able to use both fingers or all of them if you can. I don't fool with my third finger on slapping, but you're just basically you're pulling underneath the string and pulling it up. You see that? And that's your pop right there. It's your slap and pop. So some people call this thump, you can call it slap, and then pop. Slap and pop. I call it thump and thump. So you just basically get that right there, you pop, time for some new strings. And this next one is somewhat new, the double thumb created by Victor Wooten. And it's kind of like using your pick. It's the same kind of the idea, up, down stroke, and upstroke. You go through through the string, and you come back up with the nail of your finger. So you go through with the lower end, the meat end of your finger, thumb, and then you come back up. And then you can do the pop or the slap. The pop right there. You do your double thumb, go through the string, and then you can do a pop. Same thing, try to utilize the first index finger and the middle finger. And say, well, you'll be able to utilize 16th notes when you can use the index finger. You got one E and one E and two E and. If you just use the index finger, you got the triplets, triplet, 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 and then you can get them real fast. Like I said, with a lot less effort. So you get your triplet there, get your 16th notes there. So just mute your string, just practice like that. So that's your double thumb. Use your index finger for you can get your triplets, use the index and the middle finger, get your 16th notes. So not much there. There's not a lot of different ways to do that. It's just down, up, and as you're coming up, you pop a string. So that's your double thumb, and then something that's come a long ways now is the tapping, and that's and you're basically using your hammer-ons, in your volume, but it enables you to hit these bigger intervals without trying to jump around and hit these notes. It just gives it a difference. Like that. So that's just tapping. Just hammer on here. That's just basically just hammering everything on. You're tapping here, and you're hammering on up here. up here and get that bass note in there. While you let this ring out here. So just some bass guitar techniques there that you can go with. I'll bring back another video on how to utilize this left hand or your fret hand. That'll be coming up next day or so. So like I say, subscribe, hit that bell notification, get in the loop, don't miss a beat. And if you got some value out of this, help me help you. Hit that like button, and I'll catch you all in the next video on the Flip Flop. So bye now.